Terrorist group Boko Haram successfully overran a town and military outpost in north this week, and local officials say the death toll could reach as high as 2,000.
Basically, they attacked the village over the weekend and killed lots of people. Some are talking about hundreds of people being killed. Then they came back on Wednesday, went into the town, and then started killing again.
After taking over a military base near the town of Baga Saturday, Boko Haram fighters rampaged through 16 surrounding towns and villages Tuesday and Wednesday, burning homes and slaughtering civilians. There's no official death toll, but local lawmakers estimate as many as 1,000 or 2,000 people are dead after the attacks. Other observers place the death toll in the hundreds rather than the thousands. The town has borne the brunt of these clashes before. In 2013,
into the fact where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy. Good afternoon. As you know, sometimes this is live TV, so sometimes we get little setbacks. We rolled a clip about Boko Haram. That was from the Huff Post. Basically, they were relating the fact that things are still in effect. It's amazing how things that are so that take such precedence for a short period of time seem to have no relevance at all once white folks get tired of it. Funny how we hear nothing about Ebola anymore, and that's certainly not because it's any less deadly and taking any less amount of casualties. That's because no United States Negroes have died from it, you know, so it's just Africans that are dying. And we haven't heard anything about Benghazi lately, or And we haven't heard much about ISIS, although we have the ISIS is hacking our computers thing. My guest today is Shaka Shakur. We're going to talk about things that are going down. We're certainly going to talk about issues related to the police department. He was also, yesterday, I think it was, at a commemoration for Khalid Muhammad. That's this thing that goes off. So I'm going to power it off. He's going to get into that, and we're going to talk about issues related to our community, because no one else talks about issues related to our community. And when issues related to our community are discussed, they're discussed by a room full of white folks, which is disgusting. So, my brother, how you doing today?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. You know, Happy New Year and Happy New You.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me on the show once again.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Every time you come on, it's a powerful experience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Khalid, tell us about Khalid and what you did, what you were doing yesterday to commemorate him, and why, and how that all factors into what we're doing now.
Okay. Well, first of all, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, his Earth Day, as we call it, not birthday, Earth Day, was January 12th. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, a lot of us have been going to Malcolm's celebration, Malcolm X's celebration,
right,
on May 19th,
right,
for him and Sister Betty. And we attend to, you know, because they're in the same cemetery. So people will go from Malcolm's over to Dr. Khalid.
Right.
And at first we were like, it's okay, you know, we understand, because some people coming up on the buses, they don't have a way to get back. But then some of us started thinking, you know what, that's an excuse. And Khalid never made excuses. And
right,
we can't make excuses.
Right.
We shouldn't have to take three powerful leaders like that, Sister Betty, Brother Malcolm, and Khalid, and try to squeeze them in one day.
Right.
Let's
right,
give him his own day.
Right.
You know why? Or are we waiting for white folks to tell us?
See, I kind of think,
you know?
that's the reason. You know, I don't want to get too far into this, but I kind of think that's the reason why we do things, because white folks tell us it's all right to do things. Mm-hmm. White folks have kind of come to the conclusion that it's all right for us to commemorate Malcolm, and it's all right for us to commemorate Martin, you know, and so we instinctively do it. That's not to say that what they did was not significant and that they were not great men,
right,
but the reasons that we are doing what we are doing a lot of times really have nothing to do with them. We don't even honor what they
like
are we talking about.
The tribute to Malcolm, you know, I don't want to make no mistake, it was started by our people, and
right,
it's been carried on by our people.
Right.
As we know, recently, since the movie Malcolm X, a lot of other people have been exposed to Malcolm, thus the event is becoming bigger, which is good.
Right.
You know, but we said, no, Khalid needs his own day, you know, because this man, Dr. Khalid, to us, was our living Malcolm in our lifetime.
Right.
You know,
right,
we got to see someone who stood up like that, you know, in that same line of, you know, as he would say, line of divine. So what we did yesterday, myself, the rest of the organization, the Black Soldiers, and our brother Sharif from Newark, a part of the New Black Panther Party, just 5 of us, we said, you know what, rain, shine, no matter what, we're going up there. And we drove up to Ferncliff Cemetery. We honored our brother, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and we took time to visit the gravesite of Malcolm Shabazz, you know, and give him our respect. And we decided that, you know, most of all, people don't understand, like, we're at war. A lot of us say it, but we don't really understand that this is war. And in war, anything is possible. Right. You know, we kind of forget the depth of this enemy and the depth of white supremacy, and it's not beyond a desecrated grave. Right. You know, recently they shot up the gravestone of Fred Hampton. Right. You know, found it all shot to pieces. So, you know, who's to say that they're not desecrating these graves when we're not there? But yet we call ourselves soldiers and all these nice fancy names, but we're not covering down. But go to Arlington Cemetery. Right. There's always somebody on guard right there. Right. You know, 24 hours a day. Now, we might not have the resources to do 24 hours a day, but there's no reason why at least once a month we can't get on and go right up to Exit 7 on the Thruway and go visit our heroes.
And it's interesting, and I'm glad you used the word war, because war in and of itself is multifaceted.
Yes.
And a lot of us are reactionary, and we view that as being aggressive, as taking a proactive stand and attacking systemically things that are designed to hold us in check.
Right.
So, I mean, it's the things that we react to are real things. They're not, you know, manufactured in our minds, you know.
Right.
The murder of young black people, especially black males, is a reality. It's not something we fabricate.
Exactly.
You know, millions, the number fluctuates somewhere between 2 and 4 million black males either in jail or somehow reporting to the system. That's not something that we imagine. But once you accept the fact that these things are not going to just dissipate from the ethos because we demonstrate for a hot minute and they bring their news cameras out, and then once they take the cameras out, it's like it's all better.
Exactly.
So it's really positive. It is the nature of war for you to proactively go out and celebrate those people who were warriors in the struggle to affect change in the black community for the better of black people.
And even in our cultures, African people, we understand that, you know, death is not the end. It's a transformation.
No.
So their spirit and their energy is still here. And we know that when we call on that spirit, it energizes us. That's another reason that we said we have to keep our heroes alive, our sheroes alive, you know, starting with Dr. Khalid. Now, that was the first annual yesterday. We will be out there every year. Now, I know, as Dr. Khalid would say, we have fair-weathered revolutionaries, you know, who are not going to come out because it's cold.
Right.
You know, it's snowing and raining. But I think that's a fitting atmosphere for Dr. Khalid because he was an uncompromising black man.
Right.
So why should the weather be compromising?
Right.
You know, get up. If he was here, he would call you and say, it's a nice day outside, and you would say, yes, it is. And he would say, so why are you answering the phone? Why are you not out there with the people? And we have to get back into that and understand what we're dealing with and move in that direction. And like you said, it is proactive. And if we can't be proactive about something as simple as commemorating your own, that requires no blood. It requires no sweat. It just requires you maybe to take a day off work. You take a day off for the Super Bowl. You take a day off for the concert.
It requires a change of mind and a change of perspective, which is very, very difficult. You mentioned fair weather revolutionaries. Actually, fair weather revolutionaries are not the biggest problem. They're kind of something that, you know, there's something that you factor into the equation. They're actually a good thing because you can predict them. The people that I have the most difficulty, the people who I believe do the most harm, although they believe they are doing the most good, are those people who do the, like, Selma cliche thing, and they celebrate the fact that you know, we are up for some award for playing some maid or butler or some stuff like that, which is not proactive. And as a matter of fact, it's not even honest, because when you talk about Selma, that one act, you seem to, and you talk about nonviolence. I'm not even sure what that means.
I've never seen that.
Because even if you argue the point that the people who followed Dr. King did not act violently against those who were acting violently against them, they certainly knowingly walked headfirst into violent confrontations, prepared for whatever. So their mind was the mindset of war. You could quibble about whether or not you would use different tactics and whatnot, but they didn't avoid violence. It wasn't just a kumbaya moment.
Right.
When you talk about Selma and marching, that's fine, but you should not forget that this started from an economic assault on the system of white supremacy itself, on Jim Crow itself.
Right.
They assaulted the bus, you know.
The bus boycott.
They economically assaulted them, prepared to destroy them if they didn't get what they wanted. So that's an aggressive act. That's not just walking down the street holding hands, singing songs, and, you know, get the vote back. So we have this romanticized view of what it is to be a revolutionary and what it is to move from point A to point B. And as a result, we find ourselves in a worse condition collectively than we have been in since Reconstruction, in my view.
No, I agree. I think one of the main problems is, first of all, we have to understand that everyone is not fit to sit at the table of generals.
Right.
Some people are soldiers, they need to stay in their role, and let generals be generals. Secondly, we have to change our language. You know, Martin Luther King's approach was passive aggressiveness. It was not nonviolent. It was passive aggressiveness.
Right.
They were very aggressive about what they wanted.
Correct.
And they were just passive in their approach.
Correct.
And understanding that when you have a strategic plan, I think we spend too much time quarreling about which plan. Get the lane that fits you best.
Right.
And stay in that. If we were in the military and we were a fire team, and I'm the grenade launcher, and you're the sniper, and he's the machine gunner, we could be sitting around talking, but when it's time to go, we grab the weapon that we're trained to grab.
Right.
So when it's time to go, if you're the economic person, then stay in that lane.
Right.
You know, and if you're the person that's going to be on the front line marching, stay in your lane.
Right.
You know, and we'll all work this out together.
Right.
Because you need one to push the other. Like if there wasn't a Martin, there wouldn't be such a fiery Malcolm.
Correct.
We would have nothing to talk about.
Correct.
And if there wasn't a Malcolm, there wouldn't be a Martin's win. Because
Correct.
they looked at the both like, okay, you know, we'll take him.
Right.
You know, just like we do.
Right.
You know,
Right.
with
Right.
their presidents.
Right.
You know, we have to understand it's a strategy.
Right.
And lastly, we also have to stop. You know, someone asked me, they said, well, you know, you look back in history, you look back at kings and kingdoms, they had what's called a court gesture. The court gestures were anywhere from minstrels to jugglers.
Right.
They were entertainment.
Entertainment.
But why do we, at this day,
look for
the court gesture?
For the clown to be the king.
The king didn't call, well, let's go to war. Bring in the court gesture so I can get his opinion.
Send in the clown.
You know, send in the clown. Let's ask him what he think about war. So when we get in a war for a movie or whatever, that's entertainment. I mean, I could care less about an Oscar or what they say, you know? If you notice, our movies are designed to keep us in a certain place because we look up to the entertainers.
Correct.
They just put out a movie recently. Clint Eastwood is one of the biggest propaganda-driven directors out there. And I'm not mad at him because he's American and he's pushing his agenda. You know? So when you look at that, you say, well, they just put out American Sniper. At the same time, we put out Selma.
Right.
Now, I watched American Sniper. Good movie, but it's driven to make you pro-American.
Correct.
And it works.
Correct.
Our movies are driven to make us pro-slaves.
Correct.
And it works because we let it work. But once we start understanding a major propaganda to any war, I mean a major force to any war is propaganda, we need to start teaching it. I think we don't need to avoid the movies. I ain't going to tell you how to get the movie, but I'm not saying go to the theater.
I'm giving y'all my money, and I'm not interested in that. And I'm not interested in seeing that crap.
We do need to take classes.
I ain't lying.
We need to take classes because if we don't teach, like when I was teaching political education at City College, I got the movie Butler, and I called everybody there. We watched it.
Right.
And then we tore it apart, limb by limb by limb,
Right.
so you can understand what's going on.
Right.
Because if we don't start teaching our people the use of propaganda and how powerful propaganda is, like Malcolm said, the media is powerful. Everyone else studies the media. We just reject it altogether. And I think that's a big no-no for us.
Well, see,
we have to study it.
We mentioned this last week in passing, but February 26th in the year 2012 was very, 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 very significant. It was extraordinary. Three things happened, and you could tell where the heads of black people were if you are involved in social media at all. All eyes were on the Academy Awards.
Yes.
And on February 26th, in the year 2012, the Academy Awards were up. And the Best Actress Award went to Meryl Streep for playing Margaret Thatcher, a very, very powerful global leader, white female.
Right.
The Best Supporting Actress went to, not Viola, but the other, for The Help.
Right, for The Help,
right.
yes.
And while blacks, especially black women, were consumed with rooting for The Help to win this Academy Award, there was something else that was going down with your sons. That was also the day that George Zimmerman stalked and killed Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
So this is the reality of America. The white woman gets the Academy Award for portraying a powerful leader. The black woman gets an award for portraying a maid in white folks' house, where she refers to Crisco oil as being something she rubs on her husband's ashy feet. And in reality, they are murdering your son, and you're not even paying attention to that. So you're not paying attention to the fact that you playing his slave, and you certainly are not paying attention to the fact that they're murdering your children. This was starting to go viral, contrary to what the media black generals, I'm trying to avoid saying this, would have you believe. It didn't start with them. It started to go viral long before it got to their hands.
Oh, yes, yes.
As a matter of fact, that's why they were forced to take up the issue.
Agreed.
But this is the reality of America. So when you talk about honoring Dr. King, Dr. King would never make a deal with Ray Kelly to not disrupt commerce while he was marching. You could lay a lot of things on Dr. King, but it certainly isn't that. He was a commerce disrupting SOB. That's all he did was disrupt.
He was very good at that.
That's right. That's right.
Well, you know, when it comes to, we have to understand that that's why we, myself and others, put such a high emphasis on the value of a Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad in our lifetime.
Right.
Because this is someone to us who embodied all of those leaders.
Right.
He knew when to be Martin. He knew when to be Malcolm. He knew when to be Ida B. Wells.
Correct.
He knew when to be all of these people in one person. And he taught that, you know, we have to get away from these created arguments that the enemy has created, that we drop right into it, whether you're Martin or Malcolm. And I told somebody one time, we weren't even alive then. You know, we were like babies when this was going on. So how we get into this argument?
And Khalid was too fast mentally to be anything but Khalid. He was just like fast. He was too fast to copy anybody.
So it's like, you know, we have to understand and look at it from a purely military standpoint. It's not about who I like or don't like. It's about what moves were effective. Because, you know, if you study our history, there was a man named Sufi Muhammad who actually was the first black person to say, if they don't respect you, don't shop in it. You know, there was a Vernon C. Mason in the same church as Martin Luther King before Martin Luther King, who had the same stance as Martin Luther King. You know, but he was more about building the economics of our community. But he was prepared to boycott. He actually broke the Selma law way before Rosa Parks. He went through the front of the bus. I mean, you know, so there are many people in history, and there was someone before Rosa Parks who sat on the bus. You know, so there are many people through history who have done these things. So it's just a matter of who can put the right spin to what's being done. Rosa had a very good propaganda machine around her when she did it. So it was effective. You know, and it's just that. So we don't really
and black
get caught
people had a different mindset too. They were prepared to walk till doom crack.
But because they were just out of the Wall Street mind, the Black Wall Street mind. See, the enemy makes sure he crushes that too. You know? So he crushes all the things that build you. That's why we always say it's important to put back into our mind state pure blackness, the love for blackness. Because like I told some other day, I agree, education, economics, all these things are part of the plan. But if you don't put the mind of a black person back in black people, I mean the love for self, undying love for self, an undying pride for who we are, you'll just be a rich slave or an educated slave. Or you know, we got all those things. I mean, if you look at it from that standpoint, just that standpoint without the blackness, more black young men are graduating from college now than ever. You know, there are more fathers in the home now than we've had in a while. Even though we are going to prison, there are like, for every 2 people that go to prison, 3 don't. They're not telling you about that. There are more complete black families, et cetera, et cetera. On the money tip, I think the richest woman is in Nigeria. You know, then Oprah and then the others. We have entrepreneurs. We have all that. We have politicians. We have all that. But without the proper mind state, it's just a bunch of slaves.
You get rich by yourself, but you can't build wealth and power and legacy by yourself. It's impossible. As much money as you talk about Oprah having, Oprah is barren. There's no place for her to leave her money but the PBS and the puppies and whatnot.
And there's no place for her to go.
So she has no vision of anything beyond Oprah. You know, when you have a vision beyond your own life, you can actually build power.
Yes.
The Rothschilds could not have built power without legacy. It was, I mean, they started the bank, but then the war came, they seized opportunities. All the brothers got together and said, okay, we're going to back England and whatnot against Napoleon. It worked out, and they built a dynasty. A dynasty. When you look at the Waltons, and the Waltons left a lot of the Walton money to 2 wives, but the wives are in sync with the Walton blueprint, legacy.
Right.
They take the name Walton and they see Walton as the power base.
Exactly.
We don't seem to,
because we're not educating ourselves.
We're not educating ourselves.
We're educating ourselves based on our immediate situation.
Correct.
And it's a natural reaction.
Right.
I mean, somebody got a foot in your neck.
Especially when it's reinforced all the time.
So you keep seeing the foot on your neck.
Right.
Because you don't see the leg and the torso attached to the foot.
Right.
We just have to start teaching differently.
Right.
And in order to teach differently, we're going to have to be bold. We're going to have to do things we probably never thought we'd do, or say things we never thought we'd say. We have to stop saying the murder of our black young people. It's genocide. Use the right language. Genocide. You know, this is what, and when you use that language, it gives it a different appeal.
Right. Murder is an individual thing.
This is genocide. This is a collective state. And even everything that we've mentioned in this short time, it didn't just start now.
Right.
You know, we're talking about a plan for us that's 400 to 500 years on this shore.
Right.
1,000 or some odd more off of this shore.
Right.
You know, and God knows how long worldwide.
Right.
You know, so the De Beers, the Rothschilds, the Waltons, they have a framework that keeps them united. It's called white supremacy.
Correct.
And that global idea of a global domination is what keeps all these European families, no matter if they're from France, England, or America. They don't even have to know each other. But because their training is the same, they find out they somehow unite. And we have to have a global training in regards. And it has to start here, because what we don't understand, because we don't think globally, is that the rest of the black world is looking at us.
Yeah.
You know, people can criticize Martin Luther King all you want, but his struggle, you got people in Ireland protesting against the Queen, and they're chanting, "We shall overcome." Why? Because they studied us. You know, of course, we know that all the continent, throughout the continent of Africa, all the places that were liberated, so to speak, even if they got taken back later, those leaders came here and studied. You know, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Sekou Touré's, you know, Lumumbas, they studied what we were doing and took that back and became successful. And, you know, they were rerouted, but they were successful. The Castros, etc. So what we're saying is that we have to start taking more pride in ourselves. But again, if we don't pick and honor our heroes and sheroes, who are the prime example of what we want to be, you know, we're going to continue to wait for the Academy Awards and look for entertainers, because those become our heroes. So we're saying by honoring the Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, we're honoring, like Ozzy said, the best in ourselves, in our generation. You know, Malcolm is our great father, our grandfather, our great father, the great Baba, but he's out of my generation. So every generation has to find that person within their generation that's tangible to an extent, that I can say, yeah, I walked with this man, because I did. I sat with this man. I talked to this man. He was a real person to me. I actually saw what he did. And I also saw the similarities. Like, this celebration was small, and we know it's small because the white man still has black people afraid to be associated with a Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, even in his death. Like, years later, Malcolm, he couldn't even get buried almost in New York. If it wasn't for people like Ozzie Davis and others stepping up, he wouldn't even got buried. And then, how many years went by before you were allowed or felt comfortable saying his name? You know, we talk.
Well, I felt very comfortable. I grew up in the era, and so you know, Malcolm was very personal to me because, first of all, the Malcolm that they talk about is not the Malcolm that I remember. And it's not even the Malcolm that people his own age talk about, because I'm coming up, I'm a young guy, I'm a teenager, I'm coming up in an era that is a political hotbed. They are inundating the black community with things like heroin. So a lot of people are behind the 8 ball. There is economic struggle, there is crime struggle, there is political movement, there is political greatness. And to see a person like Malcolm, first of all, no matter what your affliction was, they always had one answer. Once a dope fiend, always a dope fiend. Right. Once a cigarette smoker, always a cigarette smoker. Once a this, always a this. And then you have this guy, Malcolm, and Malcolm doesn't have the PhDs. Malcolm was just like us.
Right.
And Malcolm did the work. That's not to say he didn't have a mentor. You need a teacher.
Yes,
you need somebody to guide you. But you have to do the work and focus and do the work. So Malcolm was a living example to me that anything is possible, that you're never dead until you're dead. Exactly. And that's not the Malcolm that a lot of people talk about. You know, they pretended Malcolm was some sort of socialist. Malcolm was an example of no surrender, believing in yourself.
And nothing is impossible.
And nothing is impossible, and that even this you're as good as any white man never came up when you talked about Malcolm. Right. You know, you're as good as you wish to be.
Right, exactly. You know? You are the barrier set.
Correct.
And that's the same thing with Khalid. Like, you know, as a young man myself, knowing little about Malcolm and learning pieces of him, then later on in my life, finding myself in a situation where I'm incarcerated.
Right.
And then I get this book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. I read the book.
Right.
Again, like you said, I was like, wow, that's me. You know, I can do this. It inspired me and many others to start stepping up.
Correct.
And then we get these cassette tapes with this guy, Khalid Abdul Muhammad. And we're saying, wow, he sounds just like this guy wrote the book. You know, and so coming out again, like you know, I knew Khalid through conversations, person like this, one-on-one conversation. So I didn't meet the sound clip Khalid.
Right.
You know, I saw that guy. You know, one or two times we served together in the battlefield, but most of the time it was these kind of conversations. You know, we'd sit down either at Mark 125 or at the Jamaican Hot Pot, you know, and we would have these, he would call me and say, hey, look, I'm in the city, what are you doing? And we would have these 2 and 3 hour conversations, or better, where really it was one-sided because I just listened and absorbed. And I watched how he moved, you know, and see this man, like, you know, walk through the streets, very, very humble, very loving. Like, you can see the love coming off him for his people. It wasn't no posturing, it wasn't an act. It was sincere. Like, if somebody said hello from across the street, he would do what I call the down south thing, you know, hey, hey, you know, to everybody. So that is the Khalid I respect. That's the Khalid. Now, I do love the stand-up Khalid, don't get it wrong. I love that, but I see the balance.
Correct.
You know, and that's why I'm able, from that, to look at a lot of people out here now and say, you know what, you don't love your people.
Right.
Even though you are a stand-up person.
Right.
But okay, like tomorrow night, Friday night, we give you like the PSP. The People Survival Program that we do is the other half of Khalid. That he didn't live long enough to do. But these are conversations I had with him, like, you know, our people are hungry, our people need this, our people need that. And he was clear that we have to be the ones to provide it. He said, because if we don't, then our people will continually depend on someone else. He said, you know, we need to set up.
And someone else is not acting in your best interest. Exactly. Someone else is telling you all sorts of stuff. Some lies are cool if they reinforce what you're trying to do. Like, there are some lies that are just like blatant lies according to their own records.
Right.
You know, I was talking to this around Christmas time. I was invited to this party, house full of white folks and me.
It's like lynching.
Well, no, it's not lynching, but it's Christmas. You don't want to really get into big debates with them, so you listen to a lot of dumb crap, you know. But you don't want to, you know, you don't want to be too aggressive and tell them this is, you know, dumb crap, you know. In another place of time, you'd be like, yeah, wait a minute, this is stupid. And there was this young white girl. She was, and it was obvious that she was smart. But smart just means that you can retain data quickly.
That's all it means.
It doesn't have, if the data is wrong, it really doesn't matter. You're just remembering bad data twice as fast as everybody else. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And she said some stuff about how I asked. She was in college, and I asked her what she was studying. She said she was studying Greece, And so my first response was, oh, you know, you want to be a teacher, you know.
Right.
And she said no, she was into archaeology. So my mind, Greece, archaeology, you know, but I, you know.
Right.
I said, well, why Greece for archaeology? I don't get it. And her exact response was that Greece was the beginning. Now, this left the door open for a whole bunch of stuff because this is bad arithmetic, even by your own standards.
Right, exactly.
You have not, I mean, how are you studying Greece, ancient or otherwise, and you are not studying dates and times and everything else that's happening around it? You can't just take something out of context and call yourself studying it. And ancient Greece is a misnomer by any
Yes.
So I'm like, well, how does archaeology factor into Greece? And then she said something really stupid, something about Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey and trying to see if they were real, you know. And my first impression was like, the Iliad and the Odyssey are like comic books. It's like,
Basically.
you know, Achilles, you
dip
dip
them
him
in.
about, you know.
Except his ankle.
Right, you
His
know,
Achilles.
this is like Superman, you know.
It's entertainment.
It's right, they're comic books and whatnot. And it's bad arithmetic. When you talk about Homer, when you talk about Greece, the archaic period in Greece is like 8 centuries BCE. When you talk about the first dynastic period of Egypt, you're talking about 35 BCE.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not talking about Dr. Ben's numbers. I'm talking about according to your own numbers.
Right.
I'm not
We
even
can go deep into that,
right. But I'm not even going to do that. By your own numbers, the civilization in Egypt predates even the caveman crap in Greece by almost 2,500 years. So how can you call this like the beginning? But I didn't really want to get into that, you know.
Right.
But this is not harmful when you're teaching white people because you are reconfirming white supremacy.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It is harmful when you're teaching black people because you are reconfirming white supremacy to black people. You are telling black people to believe that Greece was somehow the beginning, this European thing, totally negating the fact of anything that you were affiliated with.
I think it's also, too, you know, I'm glad you pointed that out because that's really what it is at the end of the day. They tell lies to support their
Correct.
lie, you know,
Correct.
And they have to continue. Like my grandmother said, you tell a lie, got to keep telling lies.
Right.
Got to remember that lie, tell a new
Right.
lie, or create another lie.
Right.
You know, and that's what they do. That's why it's impertinent that we reinforce our minds with our truth. Because just by studying our truth,
Right.
not only will it knock out that lie,
Right.
but you'll get all that along the way.
Correct.
Because you can't study
Correct.
the evolution of African people, black people,
Right.
and not find yourself in Greece.
Right,
Or find yourself
right,
here. Or find, because
right.
we were everywhere.
Right,
You know,
right,
and
right,
you'll get there
right,
eventually.
right,
Just stay
right,
on this course.
right.
You know, and study anything we do, we have to do, and I'm going to reference Khalid because we're talking about him. Khalid said anything we do has to come from the belly of blackness. You know, it has to come from that mind state. Like, if you're looking for something, it's because I'm looking for the black in it. Now, as I'm searching for the black in it, I'll learn all that other stuff. You know, like I'm in school, you know, we're taking up philosophy, and I'm sitting in class, and I'm listening to them go on and on about Socrates and this one and that one.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, like, wow. So then the professor pulls up, we get into the Jesus discussion.
Right.
And the professor pulls up a picture. He said, well, this is what Jesus would really look like.
Right.
So he, you know, pulls it up, and it's not a black man. It's,
Right.
At anything best, it's like a Palestinian. You know,
Right,
or an
right,
Afghani, right,
off-white.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right.
What they
well,
call them, dark whites.
Dark white, yeah. I'm saying, I'm like, you know, he ain't white, but no, come on, professor.
Right,
But
right.
the professor's from Egypt.
Correct.
So that is his reality.
Correct.
So I'm not mad at him. But
Right.
that just shows you that everyone else
Right.
puts these figures in their own image.
Correct.
And we have to do the same.
Despite the fact that all the information is
Says
readily
otherwise.
available and
Exactly.
you have access to the information and you are the teacher. How can you teach? How can you sit there and teach bad information when it's so easy? I mean, if Greece was the beginning, I'd confess to if you had anything, even if I didn't believe it, I'd say, well, according to this book.
Right.
You know,
But it doesn't exist.
But it doesn't exist.
Well, you know, it works for them because ultimately they're reinforcing their troops.
They're reinforcing,
and
correct.
their troops need to think that, you know, you ain't going to conquer somewhere if you think you're not the first.
Correct.
So we got to reinforce this lie.
Correct.
You know, and in the military today, you know, it's still done to this day. That's what West Point is about. You know, Dr. Collins used to always say, we need our own West Point.
Right.
Well, we teach military sciences and the global studies, etc. You know, not social studies, but global studies. You know, and these things are something that we've done in the PSP. Like we have the Janame University, which we call the support school. You know, we don't have to take your children out of school. We just get you one day. All I need is one day.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Just give me one whole day. And I will put so much.
He's nicer than me. I want him away from y'all. I do.
Because I understand. I understand. Like I call it the heroin effect.
Right.
And you know, when you take someone.
I know you.
Off,
I know.
It's rough.
I know.
So,
I know.
but at the same time, by doing it this way, I let the person go back. And face the contradiction. And they'll come back like this, you know, wow, I didn't see it like that. And slowly they will give you more days. I don't have to take it. You know, I give you one day a week. And in that one day, when I send you back on Monday to school or work, your eyes are open. You know, once your eyes are open, you can't close them back. And they'll come to me like,
yeah, I'm a bottom line kind of guy. For the most part, we've gotten nothing out of it. I mean, we've remained dutiful slaves, and they've gotten rich. Yes. You know, you talk about charter schools. The white folks who are running charter schools certainly have no inclination to teach black people to compete and succeed against white supremacy. So you're not even teaching us to compete. You're teaching us to be subservient. And you're getting paid a buttload full of money. But I don't want to. Listen. I could go on with this forever because there's a whole bunch of stuff. You mentioned Socrates.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Oh, good afternoon. How you doing? We got a call. I didn't even see that. I'm hooked up with this brother here. Go on, brother.
That's all right. This is Brother David X calling.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
All right. I just wanted to say a great show again. Also, I wanted to remind Shaka to talk about Friday with the PSP program, what they're doing Friday, and Saturday with the Malcolm X piece with the political prisoners down at 1199 Union Hall.
Definitely. Well, on Friday, we'll be going out on the next phase of the People Survival Program. You know, for almost 7 years, we've been on 125th in Lexington. We set up the tables. Pretty much people come to us. We said, no, we're going to step it up now. So we're filling up vehicles, and we're going out at night. And we've noticed in New York City, we have a large tent population that is springing up all over the city. People are putting up tents and lean-tos, and they're living in the streets because they don't want to go to the shelters. So we're going around because what happens when the police go around and round these people up, they go to jail.
If they're lucky.
If they're lucky. A lot of times they tell them, they say, you know.
You could end up in the morgue.
They say we're taking them to a shelter, and they take them in for trespassing to get to college.
Right.
So we're going out now, and we're going out with food, clothes, and medical attention to these different areas. This Friday, we'll be leaving at 8 o'clock at night. It's from 8 to 12, and we're starting in the Bronx and Harlem this week, and then we'll move every week. So we're telling people to gather coats, scarves, sweaters, things of that nature. And you can send it to, you can hit us at this email, which is PSP_Shaka, SHAKA @AIM.com. Or you can call me directly at 347-364-1566. We'll come to you, we'll get the supplies from you. If you can come out with us, fine. If not, we have people. And on Saturday, we're having our annual political prisoner dinner at Martin Luther King Center. And that's on 48th Street and 8th Avenue. And there we're going to honor our brother who came home, Brother Sekou Odinga. He's one of the people. He'll be there. We're also honoring those who are not with us. We recently lost Brother Phil Africa.
Phil Africa,
He returned to the essence. So this is a time when we honor the families of those heroes and sheroes. Because often we get into the person and we forget that person got a family. You know, who's doing it with them.
And that is so important. I mean, you have to you need to take care of your community. You need to take care of your families. You need to put a little love into the equation. And you know, I mean, we are not simply fighting against powers and principalities.
Right.
We are fighting for something. We are fighting for our own families,
Yes.
our own.
And ultimately, that's the first fight.
Right.
The
That's
first,
the
first
only
fight,
thing that would
yeah.
put me in the battle.
That's it. The only thing. The
You
first
know.
fight is the establishment
Right.
of a black nation.
Correct.
And black
Correct.
love and
Correct.
black consciousness.
Correct.
As a
Because I
result,
wouldn't get into a war just
Yeah.
because I hated you.
Nah.
I would avoid you.
Right, exactly.
I would get into a war because you're attacking everything that I love.
And actually, if you look historically, we are in war because we've
Correct.
always avoided them.
Correct.
When they let us go, we was like, all right, we're going. Bye.
Correct. Correct. Right.
Thanks.
That's
You know,
right.
we can go over
That's
here.
right.
Y'all stay over there.
That's right. Not
We
a
can do our
problem.
own thing. No
Right.
problem.
Right.
And it was a problem for them. They came over
It's
here.
a problem for them.
Even now,
Right.
gentrification
Right.
is that same repeat.
Correct.
You left
Correct.
us here.
Correct.
You know, you say you didn't want this area.
Right.
We good.
Right.
We figure it out.
Right.
You
Not a
know?
problem.
Not a problem. Now
Yeah.
you want to come back.
Yeah.
You know, so we understand that this is the type of situation where we're going to have to just dig our feet in the mud and stay on the
Right.
ground.
Right.
There's nowhere left to run, actually.
Right. Right.
We're going to go in the rivers. There's nowhere left. And
Now, because we kind of run out of
Yes.
time, if y'all don't remember, if you have difficulty remembering the information that Shaka said, and I'm gonna let him repeat it. I'm sure that if you just like go to your search engine and type in the words "People's Survival Program," you'll
Yes.
find some way of getting in touch with the brothers and sisters who are doing this thing.
Yes.
Before we run out of time, let's bring this back. We've talked about a lot of things. We talked about education. We talked about housing, homelessness, prison. How do we? And we got a call. But let me pose a question. We'll take the call, and you can get right into answering the call and the follow up, which will be the final thing. How do we use all of this to address the things that are coming at us, the aggressive way police are seeking out young black men and even young black women, sometimes pregnant women. How do we address this? How do we address the education system? How do we address the need that so many of us, the dire straits that so many of us find ourselves in economically? Families out of control. How do we use what we've talked about today to address some of these issues? And I'm going to take the phone call if the phone call is there. Let the phone call chime in, and I'm giving you something to think about. Hi, how you doing?
All right, now I want to give both y'all brothers a big up. You know what I'm saying? Once I seen the brother Shaka at the table and whatnot, I knew it was going to be a great show.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
You know, I was listening to y'all brothers talk and whatnot, and I was thinking about propaganda. You know, like the first 4 letters of propaganda is prop. And the prop is basically to support a subject or objective and whatnot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which is basically, you know, the white supremacy and whatnot in the case of Europeans and whatnot. And it's all about controlling the narrative and whatnot.
Right.
Personally, I have this thing where I believe that every black man and woman and child should at least be proficient in at least 2 firearms. When I tell a lot of black folks this and whatnot, one of the first things that they go to is this thing called black on black crime and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, whenever I think of a conscious black man with a gun, I'm not scared. In fact, I feel protected and whatnot.
Right.
But the way they have managed to they associate black self-defense with criminality and whatnot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I keep on hammering at this subject and whatnot. I'm not giving up on it. And a lot of black folks, particularly conscious black folks, got to understand that we can't just like say it once and give up or think it's going to take root and whatnot. We got to like keep on watering these things and whatnot. We got to understand that we can't approach this thing in a one-prong attack and whatnot. It has to be a multiple-prong attack. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's like social media, music, you know what I'm saying, talk shows such as yourselves and things like that and whatnot.
Yes.
If you study history and whatnot, you'll notice that a lot of great leaders in combat and whatnot, they never charged the enemy head-on and won. They split up their armies and whatnot and got these cats at their flanks, surrounded them, so on and so forth. In fact, that's what the white supremacy, that's what they're doing to us now. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we got to end up counterattacking with them and whatnot. I'm so thankful that I had the mind to tune in tonight. Today and whatnot. Y'all brothers stay up.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, brother. That was brilliant.
He's absolutely right. Our organization is part of we've allied ourselves with a group called the UEP Newton Gun Club.
Right.
Because we do advocate the same thing.
Right.
We understand the law. We're not saying break the law now. Let's get that clear.
Right.
If you live in a state that you can bear arms, by all means, bear arms.
Right.
If you live or if you have access to a training range, go there.
Correct.
And the reason we say that because guns are not the problem. There are, in the Olympics, there are Olympic games that, require marksmanship. There are college scholarships.
Do we still have another call? I don't know.
There are many things to go there. So to the brother, I just say quickly, keep doing that, but then understand that you're saying something that people know, but they've been conditioned to be scared of, so just keep pushing.
Right. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, chime right in.
Oh, I know you're running out of time. Unfortunately, I try to catch you at this time.
Thank you.
But I got in late, so I tuned in late. Just a quick comment. In terms of strategy, there's a lot of other things that I should say to preface this, but you're running out of time. And that is, we, as a community of people, New African people, black people, we need to address the idea of those of us who've achieved a certain power within mass media who are missing in action. That is those people, I'll name a few. The one calling himself Jay-Z, the one calling himself P. Diddy, the one calling herself Beyonce, who's blonded her hair, Nicki Minaj, who's blonded her hair, Mary J. Blige, who's blonded her hair. These people have been put in a position of leadership through mass media. And black people continue to support them, even though it is obvious that they are no longer in league with their own people, that they've sold out completely to those who are giving them the crumbs from their table. And in order to maintain their luxurious lifestyles, they've done so. Black people need to understand that and stop giving them their capital, because their luxurious lifestyles are being supported by them, by black people in the communities that they left and no longer return to. That should be one of the strategies. Stop giving them their capital, period. I'd like you to just discuss that for a few moments, if you would.
All right, thank you, brother.
Thank you for being on the air. You're a most valuable entity.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to hang up and just listen to a quick comment from you about such a strategy.
All right.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
I think the number one thing we have to do again, stop calling entertainers leaders. They're not our leaders. They are very well-paid entertainers. And if we take them out of leadership position, like I don't consider Jay-Z a sellout. He was never on board. I don't consider Mary J a sellout. She was never on board. These are individuals seeking individual wealth. And they achieved it. That's it. They didn't get on the mic saying, I'm going to represent black people. You look for alternative. Like, we have a Mos Def. We have a dead president. We have people out there who I would consider in the entertainment world to be leaders,
Yeah, we are running out of time. I got a little wordy, but it's my show. I'm sorry. Let's take the call from California. But you're definitely right. I also think that the gentleman was talking about a two-pronged thing.
Yes.
Not just what they should be doing, but how we should respond to them.
Right.
And I think he was dead on with that. But if the call is on, put the call on.
Hello?
Hi, how you doing, caller? Good afternoon.
Fine. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
I wanted to piggyback. Well, actually, I have two things I want to say, but I want to piggyback off what the brother said about at least two and also the percentages. So this is what I want to say. In regards to the percentages, when they say there's between 94 to 96 black-on-black crime, they don't look at the general populace, and they don't even factor in the fact that black people get killed 21 more times higher by police, and they're white police. They don't put that in the whole factor. So we look at a population of 316 million people, okay, and we're 14% of that, and we're only 44 million people, and we're 96% killing each other, so to speak. Well, they're 77% of 316 people, and I'm saying who they are is the white people, right? And that makes them like 245 million, and they're at 84% white on white crime. They're killing each other off just as much, if not even higher. If you do the factoring, they're the killers. When we look at it like that. But they won't put those when I see these debates go down about the percentages. They never talk about that fact that there's 84% white on white crime.
Right.
And they don't talk about the 316 million people total populace, okay, and how we are just a small fragment of that.
Right.
They never talk about that stuff because they don't want those numbers to come out. But also when we talk about legacy, because I wanted to kind of piggyback on what you guys said about legacy, this is the thing with black people, and I don't know if it has anything to do with slavery. Well, I was thinking, me personally, my personal thought, it has something to do with slavery, Reconstruction, all of that. We have a problem with setting foundations for the next generation.
Right.
If we look at life in general, everything is a legacy. If I'm passing down scientific information to the next person, that is a legacy, correct?
Yes,
you're
it
passing
is.
down information, you're passing down wealth or whatever. We don't do that. We need to stop doing that. We have to start telling our children, we can't teach them as well or properly as we should, we want to. We do have to invest in some other kind of way. When our children turn 18, you're not supposed to kick your kid out in the street with nothing. You help that child build. You build from a young age. You help them to know to go to school or know to do this and do that, but you just don't kick them out with nothing. And I don't understand why we as black people do that to one another. There is no way in the world that our kids should be coming out so disadvantaged. You understand? Like nothing. All these other kids, Chinese kids, white kids, Pakistani kids, whatever case, their parents have gave them something.
Sister, we're going to have to wrap this up. I think I have some of the smartest callers in all of creation. Because everything they said is dead on. And I'll even go further than that. The passing on of information is a greater legacy than even the passing on of economics. Because if you just give somebody money and no foundation, no sense of tradition and legacy,
right,
then you're just throwing it away. Knowledge will
go further.
Will go further, and it will create itself over and over and over again.
We're in war, and the enemy has created a culture to benefit him. We must erase that culture and create our own culture.
We got 10. You got 10 seconds to say that website again.
The website is PSP_Shaka at AIM.com, or you can go on Facebook to Shaka Shakur, and on there will be the instructions on what to do, and do it in your own community as well. If you're not in New York, we have a template. You can take it where you are. We can get out of the house, out from behind the keyboards, and into the streets.
We're out. Peace. See you next week. Yeah, I really like the way that the brother prefaced the thing about the guns, because the whole thing about talking about black on